Going to Worlds for us is like a dream. It's gonna be like really tough for us to win the gauntlet, but we have been a team that we've always won when we had less chances of winning.
Flash forward onto the dark binding. Audrey with the mystic shot.
I think they will try to beat us, but I don't think they believe in themselves that they can qualify for the World Finals, and we actually do.
Yeah, I think we have a big edge over Giants.
Nukeduck's gonna look for the Quadra. Can he get it? He does! Quadra kill for Nukeduck.
We always turn the tables when it's like the last chance.
They can still beat us, so yeah. Let's just see how it works.
Lo que yo pienso sobre Roca es que tienen un punto muy débil y es que no saben ser ofensivos. Tengo tantas ganas de jugar y de ganar. Yo antes pensaba, voy a hacer lo mejor que pueda, pero yo ahora pienso, voy a destrozar.
European LCS Regional Qualifier, where 4 teams will compete this weekend, but only 1 will go to Worlds. We're back at our studio here in Berlin, Germany. As you can see, the teams are setting up, and there the Giants were chilling just a few moments ago. A very important game for them today. Need to have it all on the line if they want to go to Worlds. And they're Pulse and Pulsa preparing, as they will be casting our match here today, setting up with their snazzy outfits and their rocket, enjoying some sun, but of course getting into the zone. What an important matchup for them here today. They will possibly have to win 3 best-of-5s to make it to Worlds. I'm Evje Sjogse here with James Stress O'Leary and Mitch Kreppel-Voorspools as Rocket and Giants set up for the first of 3 matches that will leave us with our final European contender for the 2015 World Championships. Well, first, let's recap who's already made it to the international stage. Of course, SKT, they won the LCK summer finals over there, over the Tigers. That means that the KOO Tigers will be the 2nd seed coming out of Europe, over KT, sorry. That does mean that KOO Tigers will be the 2nd seed coming out of Europe on circuit points, and SKT are the 1st seed. It's nice going into the World Championship once again as the 1st seed.
It's great for them. I mean, they look very convincing today. 3-0, their opponents KT now, they're going to have to run the regional qualifiers for Korea. So certainly still a lot to play for over in LCK.
Faker at Worlds. That's all we need to say. But Marin too, I actually look forward a lot to seeing how Marin will shape up against us, some of the other top laners. What he does on Maokai, pick we've traditionally just written off and be like, man, they pick it to go even, they pick it to be a tank top laner. Now he straight up carries on that champion, and it's very entertaining to watch.
SKT and KOO aren't the only teams to have got their qualification for Worlds today, because just a few minutes ago, actually, GPL's Bangkok Titans secured their spot from the international wildcard over the Chiefs from Australia. So unfortunately, the Koalas not going to be in chat for
Hype
Worlds.
train derailed.
Yeah, and then obviously last week we saw how Fnatic took the #1 seed and actually kicked back Origin to the Gauntlet, the region qualifier where we are today. But yeah, they didn't win in as in convincing fashion as many people or analysts expected. Very close finals overall, and I think it's good for Europe as a region where now Fnatic has things they can learn from. Origin showed that they're pretty much guaranteed the 2nd best team in Europe. However, H2K does go to Worlds by merit of championship points due to it was only Origin's 1st split overall. But yeah, fantastic representation at Worlds for Europe as a whole, I feel.
Yeah, and that does also mean that Fnatic will be avoiding SKT in the groups at least.
Yes, which for European fans is
Hope
great.
intensifies.
They haven't dodged everybody yet, because
yeah,
there are a lot of scary teams coming out from LCK and LPL.
Yeah, but that with H2K Fnatic, those are our first 2 representatives at Worlds from Europe. That leaves 1 more spot on the line, and that we will be deciding here this weekend in our regional qualifier. We'll be awarding that spot over the next 3 days. A tournament that is new here in the LCS in the 2015 season. The teams will play in a gauntlet-style bracket. Their seeding, of course, is determined by championship points, and all the games will be best of 5. The last team standing on Monday after the finals, that will be our 3rd seed.
And the regional qualifier obviously rewards consistency to both splits, both spring and summer. That's why the Unicorns of Love, yes, they didn't play that well in playoffs, they didn't finish that high, but overall throughout the entire year, they've played consistently well overall in terms of rankings. That's why they have the highest seed in the regional qualifier. But it also gives a shot to teams that haven't been performing as well lately, that just got barely in there. Think of Rocket and Giants. You know, they have a tall mountain to climb, but it is still possible. They can make that Najin-esque run through the gauntlet and perhaps make it even to Worlds.
Yeah, it's a massive mountain to climb. 3 back-to-back best-of-5s over 3 days. So not a lot of time for prep there. Very difficult, but this is the last chance. So, you know, it's not going to be easy for a last chance for a team to make it to Worlds.
Yeah, super interesting. It's the first time we see it over here in the LCS at least. And Krep also, in terms of like preparation, if you're Rocket, what do? Are you going to put everything on Giants, or are you going to think you're going to face Origin?
Yeah, if you're Rocket, obviously what you've done is you've watched a lot of games on 5.14. This is the longest time, I believe, in the LCS that we've stuck on this patch entirely. So people have been watching champ selects, and especially in the Origin against Fnatic series, we just saw the value of flex picks. You really need to be able to control these picks.
Yeah, you can control the entire pace. You can hide picks till later in the draft. You know, we look at the Fizz, top laners, mid laners. You have to be able to play both. Lulu can go in 3 spots. Shen supports we've seen picking up, and top lane. There's just so much versatility that it is incredibly difficult to draft if you have multiple flex picks that are all strong in their role.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Flex picks just allow you to pressure the pick and ban phase and hide information up until the very last second. You don't even know where the champion is going up until the last pick.
Or your first pick a Gangplank.
Yeah, that's the alternative. If you don't believe in flex picks and you just want to win the game straight up, a champion may want to invest in his Gangplank. Overall, we've seen him just wreck in the finals. It started out with, you know, Gangplank versus Riven. Is Riven the counter? But in the end, it boiled down to, yeah, just get Gangplank, win the game. Hopefully, we saw a fantastic performance from Soaz on that champion. We'll have to see whether the top laners here in the regional qualifier have picked up this champion well enough to match Soaz at least. Otherwise, Origin will have it banned against them pretty much every game.
Super interesting. But with the meta game shifting as we close in on the Worlds 2015, we want to know what you think. Get on Twitter and tell us which strategies do you think will prevail through the regional qualifier and why. You know the drill. Tweet at LOL Esports. Use that hashtag LCS and we'll track down your answers later today. So the battle for the big stage starts today here with the best of 5 between Roccat and Giants. And then, of course, as soon as we're done here, we're going to hand things over to the NA LCS team for their first regional qualifier between Cloud9 and Gravity.
Is the dream still alive for Cloud9 fans? Everybody's been talking about it for weeks. Got to run the gauntlet now for Cloud9 to get to Worlds.
Perhaps Cloud9 also has a silver lining or a bronze one in this regional qualifier, getting the bronze medal going to Worlds. Doubtful, but hey, chance is a chance.
We'll have to see what happens. For now, though, we're going to look at the matchup at hand here in Europe between 2 teams that ended the summer split neck and neck, even with a tiebreaker game, Roccat and Giants Gaming. Now, starting on the red side, the higher seed, Roccat with Steve, Jankos, Nukduk, Mr. Rawls, Vander, and their coach, Yamato Cannon. Of course, Yamato has been with us a couple of weeks, do some analysis also in the finals over in Stockholm, and every time we asked him, he was very confident in his team's ability to make Worlds. But if you look back again at their quarterfinal, they ended up losing to the Unicorns of Love in 5 games, which then is a fact on sich. But then you see how the Unicorns have done in their further playoffs. That must be an alarm bell for them.
Yeah, Yamato Cannon was obviously confident. It's good to have confidence in your team as a coach, but overall we can't forget, and that's something that Whirlup said earlier in the interview that we saw as well. They don't know how to play aggressive. That is their one weakness, and that shows these very tempered early to mid games where they're just not getting anything done. And that showed in the stat that we just had on the screen as well. They were behind nearly every game, and not by a little bit. Worrisome coming into the series, and especially later on. Yes, this is step 1. They need to win 3 best of 5s consecutively. If you're a bit of a passive team, that may prove to be tough.
Well, hang on a sec, Crepo, because Yamato, in his own words, said Roccat are playing the right style. They're playing League of Legends correctly, which, if you're 2k down at 20 minutes, I'm not too sure I'd agree with that.
Oh, if that's the correct strategy, then I'm a fantastic League of Legends player overall.
Well, you are.
I am.
Well, so we do have some criticism on Roccat, as I think is rightfully so, because they still have to bring home the bacon here if they want to go to Worlds. They do have some good things to rely on. Even in that quarterfinal they lost versus Unicorns of Love, they showed that they have a lot to work on when it comes to champion pools and a lot of strategies to work with.
Yeah, if they want to get the bacon home, as we say, or bring the bacon home, fantastic saying overall. They have more depth of champion and strategic diversity compared to Giants. I'm not going to say Roccat have insane champion and strategic depth, but more so than Giants. Lately, we've seen on 5.14, a strategy you need to be able to run incorporates that Lulu flex pick, which goes back to the Juggernaut compositions. This time it's played with Tristana or another hyper carry and just play around your AD carry. And I think that's something Roccat can do, especially with Mr. Rawls, who's fantastic in terms of positioning around team fights and just playing slow and steady. But compared that to his counterpart, Audrey in Giants, I don't think Giants can pull off the same strategy.
Right. We saw them attempted in Game 2 against H2K. They played the Vayne, they ran the Shen, tried to put everything on Adri. The problem was, it just doesn't suit Giants. Adri doesn't seem to be able to be the big carry on the team consistently. I mean, Adri in those 3 games had 5 deaths before 20 minutes. When you include Vayne games in there, that is obviously not what you want. And, you know, it's a big problem if they want to run those kind of compositions where you're putting so much on your AD carry. We saw Niels perform for Origin in the finals like it. I don't think we can see the same out of Giants.
We'll see possible advantage there, or the edge for Rocket in the bottom lane. Let's look at the mid lane, because when you think of possible edge there, Nukeduck, of course, who honestly, we have a feeling he has been stepping up at the end of the season, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah, it's very hard to compare Nukeduck and obviously Pepinero, because we've sat down and prepared for this match and we looked at the stats they had throughout the season. But honestly, for me, what matters is which one of these players is going to show up, because we've seen great Nukeducks, we've seen great Pepineros, but we've also seen, honestly, horrible performances come out of both of these players. And I think we shouldn't look to the past, but just see which one of these players is going to show up, because when you watch Nukeduck when he's in the moment, in the groove, he can be a fantastic player. I've played some games against him. I've watched some of his games where he's just sidestepping skill shots, predicting them, flashing aggressively. He got a couple of kills on February against Fnatic, for example. So he's definitely a player to be reckoned with if he's in his form, if he's in his element. And we'll have to see if that comes out today. Rocket obviously had enough time to prepare drafts as well. They knew they were playing Giants very likely, or likely from a very long time ago, so they should be ready.
A lot of time to prepare. Same goes for Giants, so let's take a closer look at them and their lineup on the blue side for Game 1 with Whirlip, Frederick, Pepinero, Adri, Godfred, and their coach Lothar. As a whole, if we look at their entire season, they have definitely improved. They made playoffs where at the end of the spring split, they were in relegation territory, but they hit a wall, honestly, versus H2K in those quarterfinals, and maybe that's just a wall that they're going to hit this season.
Perhaps, but I think it's really important to focus on where Giants were at the beginning of the 2015 season. Just come in, basically were relying on Jax in so many picks and ban phases. They expanded top, they expanded mid-champion pools, looked a lot better, and I feel like it's a testament to their growth that they are in the playoffs. However, we've seen them hit the wall, and, you know, just all around, they haven't been growing as fast as they had been earlier in this play.
I mean, coming from a 10th place team, making playoff alone is a fantastic achievement for Giants. But that stat that we just saw on your screen, 3.2k goal down on average at 20 minutes, that is, you're out of your league when you play against H2K, and you'll have to beat similar level teams if you want to get to Worlds, especially if you look at how Origin has been playing. So for Giants, they stopped progressing somewhere in the middle of the season, and unless they magically have picked this up the last 2 weeks, oh yeah, they'll need a big Hail Mary to make it to the finals.
And their Hail Mary could come from their mid laner if past results before the playoffs are anything to go by. You know, Pepinero, as a mid laner, he was previously the highest damage per minute mid laner we have in Europe, which is a great testament. But then you look at his quarterfinal games against H2K, he was the lowest mid laner that was in the quarterfinals when it comes to his damage. So did not show up a lot like the rest of Giants. They're going to need him on form against Nukeduck today if they want to win.
2 times Victor and 1 time TF, and yet those damage stats.
Yeah, not looking too great. Obviously, damage per minute as a stat as a whole is correlated to how your team is doing, but overall, just watching his individual performance, it just wasn't the Pepinero we were hoping and expecting for. Some of the pathing was wrong, some of the, you know, approaches to the early to mid game was wrong, and he simply was outclassed. Giants as a whole were outclassed against H2K.
If we look at the other players, then where is there a ray of hope for the Giants? I would say in the top lane, Whirlip versus Steve. Steve, you know, he had some good games on Echo, I remember, but it hasn't overall been that impressive, and Whirlip has been able to do good on Giants.
This could be the matchup for Giants Gaming, and they can exploit the advantage that Whirlip has over Steve. Yeah, you see similar early game stats. However, Steve just doesn't see us as well as Whirlip, and Whirlip has those champion picks that he can bend to himself. He plays a Trundle top lane. Nobody else plays Trundle top lane. They tried to gank it once, almost got a double kill in the return. So Whirlip is a tricky player to keep in check. And obviously, the way this meta has been shifting, he could pick up a couple of champions too.
He could be. Gangplank should be the big one.
Yeah.
It fits his style, likes to split push, likes to duel, should have it in his champion pool. I don't see Steve having picked it up.
We'll see what happens. For now, though, we're going to send it on stage where Quickshot is joined by the coaches of today's LCS Clash.
Thank you very much, Sharks, and the rest of the analyst desk. I am joined here by Lothar and Yamato Cannon from Giants and Rocket, respectively. Let's start by talking about how you guys got to the regional qualifier. Lothar, tough quarterfinal against H2K. What is it that the Giants took away from that series and now looking forward towards the qualifiers?
Well, we played on a new patch that affects our game plan and our game style, and it was kind of hard to adapt. But now we are learning from our mistakes, so I think we're prepared and we are ready.
All right, so I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but Yamato, longer series against UOL, went all the distance. You've then spent a couple of weeks on the analyst desk looking at the semifinals and the finals. What is it that Rocket took away from their quarters and the fact that you've been on the same patch for several weeks?
I was actually quite happy that we had so much time. Like, our flaws were obviously exposed in Unicorns of Love game. Even though Unicorns of Love won, like, we played very, very poorly. And I felt these 3 weeks we've improved a lot, and I feel personally that 5.14 is my patch right now. It's my bitch.
Okay, so we'll see if that proves true. Lozak, similar thing you were saying, you've learned now it's a new patch. How is it training on a new patch when the live server's on a different one? You know, how is the Giants' mindset around that?
Well, we prepare a lot. We are adapting properly for this patch, and yeah, we are in a good shape right now, so we are ready.
All right, we're ready, and Yamato says this is his patch. We're about to find out. Before we head over to the casters, though, we are going to hear from Adri about how he's coming into the regional qualifiers, and he doesn't care about being the underdog.
It's going to be like really, really tough for us to win the gauntlet, but we have been a team that historically we've always won when we had less chances of winning in tournaments and stuff. So I think that it might play in our favor that we always turn the tables when it's like the last chance.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard Polskam. Excited to be here with the man they say is part Dane, part Pulsar. It's Martin de Fischer Lunga.
It's kind of the same, though. So 100% Pulsar and 100% Dane.
And we're just here as we gear up for Rocket and Giants for the first match of the 2015 European Regional Qualifier. Just a couple seconds away from getting into that champion select.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to hear Adri here in the opening feature say how Giants as a team normally do well if they're the underdog. Because we looked at some of the results during the split here, and whenever they faced H2K, Origin, and Fnatic, they lost every single game.
Yeah, convincingly as well.
Yeah, only the Fnatic game was almost a win for them, where they managed to come back in the late game. When they faced like SK and Copenhagen, they're 4-0, so they're always beating the teams under them. Now, they should be looked at, I wouldn't call them underdogs here compared to Rocket. It should be fairly even, but Rocket has looked better overall lately.
For sure, but let's get into these picks and bans. We were talking quite extensively about what the bans were going to be, and so far it looks like we're on track. Callista coming out from Giants will be their first one, followed by Lee's and Jax from Rocket.
Okay, so Rocket sticking to the standard, Jax Morgana. There's no reason not to ban it until Giants prove they can play other stuff, and then you can always adapt it from here. So that's a standard, and also why I think Rocket picked the red side. It can be a little bit easier to target ban with this here because you can get 2 strong picks, obviously, in your first rotation on red side. Giants, on the other hand, I'm surprised that Elise and Maokai are being banned here. I would have expected Lulu to come in as a ban. I think it's been one of Rocket's best picks. And also Fizz as a flex pick. We know Nuke Dog, absolutely fantastic Fizz player in the mid lane. Giants clearly saying we're not too afraid of that, and Elise would normally be the first pick. We saw that in LCK today in the final, like SKT just taking that first pick. Elise, we've seen it multiple times in Europe, yet they banned their way, so there must be, almost had to be the Lulu.
Yeah, because Lulu was going to be the other one that they could potentially ban against Rocket, stop them from running any type of Juggernaut composition or even running the hyper carry like a Vayne, as we were talking about on the analyst desk, going on Mr. Rales. Not something you can really do on Adri. We've saw that in the semi-finals, just didn't work out at all. So that will be picked away by Giants, but that has left open the Zia.
And this is going to be a key thing. Nuke Dog didn't show a Zia in the quarterfinal. But we've had a few more weeks. It's very clear Zia is still an insanely strong pick. We haven't seen Pepinero play it. So now suddenly, Nuke Dog gets a comfort pick for himself. Fantastic strong right here. Shen as well as one of these flex picks we highlighted. I like this early rotation from Rocket, and again, it pays off for him to have the red side, especially because, as you mentioned, Giants tend to not do well if they play around Adri. When you pick Lulu, it's very often to buff up your AD carry. Unless you want to run Olaf in the top lane, you have like Lulu mid, Olaf top, potential severe AD carry. I could see that composition for Giants if they want to go with it and have Whirlip as the big carry up in the top lane.
Yeah, I would like Olaf as well. We haven't seen him play just yet, but he has those type of champions. The split pushes, the champions you can basically 1v5 on, and we are looking at a couple more picks. But yeah, Rocket, what's been left open for them? The Fizz has obviously gotten through, probably lower on the priority list. They have picked up the Shen as well, which can also be used as a flex. Kind of questioning whether Giants have picked that up, but Rocket have picked that into their picking order. Now waiting for the next 2 picks. It's just going to be Gragas and Fresh coming in.
So again, they're not really showing anything. It's very safe picks. They do well in the early game. They do well in the late game. Obviously, Gragas will not challenge, let's say, an Elise in the early stages in terms of the ganks, but he's scaling into the late game. is one of the best among the junglers. So Giants are not really showing anything. It still tells me they were hoping they could get like a Sivir Olaf comp. Rocket might just steal that away though by taking the Sivir here for Mr. Rales, even though he had put more focus on the likes of Kalista, obviously being banned away from Giants. He's 5-0 on the champion, probably going to be the same all series long.
Well, the interesting thing here as well, that we saw that series where it didn't go so well for them, that they picked the AD carry basically first every single time, that being from Giants. The only time they didn't was when they picked up a hyper carry for Adri later on into the champion select. It could be the same thing here.
Could be the same thing now that Sivir's been picked away. We have seen Vayne from him before, but again, this is where Giants are picking meta champions that doesn't necessarily fit Giants as a team. Because when you keep putting Adri on a Vayne, you rely on him having a strong performance. Obviously, in game, you rely on him being a big carry. He tends to do a lot better on Corki, on Israel, these long-range, safe champions where he can sit back and be a little bit poke, and he can kind of buff up, or not buff up, but help out Pepinera in these poke compositions. That tends to be the style he likes. Now, obviously, changing it up a little bit. Trundle could potentially be a big pick here for Werlip. He almost managed to beat H2K with his Trundle pick in Game 3. But the coordination wasn't there for Giants as a team. And in the end, it was just too many people piling onto Werlip and shutting him down. But that pick itself in a one-on-one is insanely strong.
Yeah, and remember he's against Shen as well. So it's just like, you want to build tanky stats? Those tanky stats are mine now.
Shen is still the flex pick. What Rocket is doing over here is they're taking double flex pick. One of them is also Echo. It has been a fantastic strong jungle pick if you look at the LPL, because again you can build full tank and you can kind of match the scaling of a Gragas and you bring a ton of CC. But it's also been one of the good champions for Steve in the top lane. Even though we haven't seen top lane Echo in a while, I am expecting therefore to go jungle. But then we gotta remember the Shen can always go down to Vander as that support pick, and then suddenly we get these flex picks coming in where it becomes so difficult, and multiple lanes are now hiding. And that's why Giants didn't really know if it was going to be Shen top for the Trundle to just steal away all his stats. Obviously a fantastic matchup for him. He will still beat a Fizz though in the early stages in that lane.
Well, that's funny though, because it's still going down to that Maokai pick, because okay, yeah, Steve's played a lot of Maokai, a lot of Rumble, but at the same time, maybe expecting to ban the Rumble so it puts him on a tank for him to play the Trundle into. Not going to be the case. We're looking at Echo here. Played that 2 times and probably the best games we've ever seen. I'm going to swap again. As you mentioned, Flex, everything can go everywhere. Fizz going to go into the top lane, and I'll be going on Steve.
So we have seen Steve play Fizz once.
Didn't go well.
We don't have to talk too much about that game. He now had 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to practice on this patch here. As Yamato Cannon highlighted, it is his patch, apparently, and something else. And now we need to see if Steve can perform. Once again, he's back on a carry. Echo was his good champion earlier on this split. The tanks have been okay, but we never really felt like he had too big of an impact when he played Maokai. His Rumble has been hit and miss. It really is Steve we're looking at. When we look at these 2 teams here, Rocket will beat or at least match Giants in the jungle position, in the mid, in the AD carry, and in the support. In most cases, we will say to probably beat them. However, top lane is the one where we're like, Steve has not been looking consistently good enough this split. So we have to see now what Werlip can do against them.
Well, with picks and bans in, it's time to load up for the first game of the 2015 European Regional Qualifier.
We still have a chance for Worlds, but I think it will be hard.
Rocket is a team that is usually very underrated. Regardless of that, I think we've got them figured out.
I think we have a big edge over Giant. Their pick and ban strategy is not that good for best of 5.
It's gonna be like really, really tough for us to win the gauntlet, but we always turn the tables when it's like the last chance.
All right, getting into game here. The first game in this best of 5 between Rocket and GIA. The Giants tweet at LOL Esports using those hashtags, hashtag GIA win or ROC win. I'll be seeing who will be advancing towards World 2015 or not.
And that's a pause. Very early on. Again, it gives a little bit more time to talk about the pick and ban phase, what we saw from both teams here. Rocket coming off very strong, as highlighted with some of these flex picks here hiding around, and then the Azir that we didn't see from Nukdog in the quarterfinal. We knew he could play it. It was just a question of how much does he like Azir. And we have seen other regions to stick to it. Consider it one of the strongest picks we saw in the final. Pekka had a showing on it twice, even banned away, I believe, once.
Yep.
It is such a strong pick because, again, you can pick it blind. You can always run defensive summoner. In this case, he's running with the cleanse because obviously, well, he's running cleanse because of Whimsy. We have the hook coming in from Godfrey. There's enough things that can shut him down. And if you look at the composition really from Rocket here, so much mobility coming in. You have Civi ulti, you have Echo dancing around trying to zone away people. You have the Azir who can dash in, use his own wall. You have fairly good ways of either disengaging or engaging yourself if you want to, with Echo jumping in first. And then obviously the flank coming from a Fizz. So very good all-around composition on the side of Rocket.
Yeah, and looking towards Giants as well, we actually saw him pick up the Tristana here, which is interesting because it kind of fits in both of those. It's a safe AD carry, but it can also act as a hyper carry. I think we do have a couple of these issues sorted out. It was a problem with Adri's keyboard, and it didn't take too long to fix that one, so we are into game here.
Sadly, in League of Legends, you do need your keyboard.
Yes,
it becomes fairly difficult if you try and play a game where you just click on all your spells with your mouse. It does not work. Tristana, though, I mean,
APM.
You make a good point. It is a safe AD carry, and in this case here, he's gonna have Lulu to buff him up in the late game. It is what we see more and more. The meta is more and more changing or shooting towards the AD carries because of Lulu becoming such a good pick again. Teams pick her here, and then they take these hyper carries with it, buff it with the shield in the late game with the Whimsy as well, the ton of mobility. You can't really one-shot them anymore because of the ulti as well coming in, and it allows them to be very aggressive and just kind of take over the games. Definitely on the side of Giants, looking to get some items on Adri, because at the same time, up in the top lane, this Trundle here, we know he's a massive split-pushing threat. Hydra into potentially a Blade of the Ruined King if you want to stick purely to split-pushing. And then Steve is going to struggle the first few levels, that's for sure.
I think the most interesting thing to me here, Defisho, is that we're seeing more adaptation yet again from Giants. Because the first time we've seen Pepinero pick up the Lulu, we have seen Lulu in the mid lane before from Giants, but that was from Adri. Remember when he
let's not talk about that.
But they've actually bringing this in here. Pepinero has heavily prioritized the poke champions in this last split, and only had that one Diana game, which is the one that he actually won on. But apart from that, it's all been poke, and now he's going for this Lulu.
That really is the scary thing, that Giants have only won one game on a non-poke champion. As you just mentioned, the Diana pick, it was against Elements, I believe, all the way back in week 2, where he just snowballed in the early game and Giants managed to win it. Everything else, poke champions. Now we're adapting a little bit more from Giants. Those, like I said, he needed more time. And as we mentioned with Nukelock doing the same, picking up the Azir. For him, it's been a good pick all split long, in my opinion. It is one where he can make plays. Obviously, Azir is a little bit less all-in now that he no longer has that knock-up. Let's see the lane swap, though, because Giants are invading in. They're going to simply just divide the map, and Giants will take the bottom side. I don't think anyone is freezing the waves. At least both AD carries were fairly late to it. So we're just going to get the standard European fast push for now.
Yeah, for now, and Giants will be taking away that blue buff. But we've been talking about lane swaps as well, and how Giants typically have not fared well in lane swaps, whereas Rocket just kind of do okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's Rocket on almost everything. They're just doing okay. They're not the best at anything. They're not the worst at anything. All split long, but yeah, Giants, it's not necessarily what they do in the start of the lane swap. It often is what they do after the first tower goes down. They tend to either leave Whirlip too long in a lane, so he suddenly gets really far behind, or they don't get to bounce the wave properly after the tower goes down, and suddenly the enemy team gets an advantage. We have to see how they react now after the tower. This is still standard for them. We see Rocket doing a lot more slow. They were looking for gank around the mid lane, realizing that's a Lulu lane, who's just going to sit back and do nothing anyway. So we'll now go top and try and do exactly the same, just poke the tower down. But Tristana and Trundle, that is fast pushing on these towers.
Yeah, that tower's going to die pretty quickly. Another wave coming in, probably just going to let this eat up those minions.
Yep,
you see the recall now coming in from Adri and Godfred, and we're already going to go to the top lane. The top lane should fall to Rocket, though.
So this is a very big freeze now coming in, because there were 4 minions left, and the new wave, you guys can see it on your minimap near Trundle, just arrived as well. So it's going to be very easy for him to group this one up and just let it slow push down towards him. So already an improvement there from Giants, and it's going to be good for Whirlip. He gets the tower down early, he gets the big wave, and what you normally want to do now is when you swap your dual lane top, you want to shove it all the way into tower, either take it, or use it to simply have your top lane a recall by this time here, and then meet him up top side, and you get the standard lanes where nobody's really falling behind.
All Alright, so we did see the recall coming in from Pepinero, just going for that Fiends and Holy Grail, building up through the Chalice as well. Bot lane Pickaxe has been picked up from Relez for the smaller power spike over the BF Sword.
I want to see if Nuclear goes to Fiends in this game here. I think against team comms like Lulu, where you often have to be a little bit more aggressive on the Azir to try and reach the backline yourself to take down that AD carry in the late game, Fiends is fine. Nash's Tooth is more the consistent DPS, especially when teams run at you. It's very good for like Nash's into Rylai's, a lot of kite. Very easy to keep landing damage, and well, getting taunted, the first one. Rylai's saying, you know what, minions over the troll.
Oh, what a Shen saves to a troll to taunt him enough to make him hit him, but there we go. Vander in this bottom lane, still level 2. Rylais should be able to hit that tower. Just trading off a little bit. Frederick now coming in as well. Just getting another taunt off, but let's try and put some damage down. The flash away from Vander actually as Pepinero is roaming in from the mid lane. Comes down with a flop in from Steve. Looking to get the damage down onto Peppy as he backs off. He will get stunned down as well by the parallel convergence. Frederick putting down the damage with the barrel rolls. And Jankos is still following after Lulu. He actually picks up the first blood. That one going into Rylais with the rest of the team chiming in.
Giants right now, we're pushing the top lane, so Steve left it, saying, you know what, I'm not going to pick up any farm. I'm in a 2v1 lane. Adric can take down the tower. So he had to walk all the way bottom lane. You see him only sitting on 4 CS. Really bad for him. And Giants were looking in basically okay. You know, they were trying to get into the tower defense. Didn't even have to because Trundle already picked up so much farm. But then Pepinero decides, I want to join the party. He could have just stuck in the mid lane, done absolutely nothing right here, and Giants would have had a pretty good advantage in the swap. Instead, a kill over target, and now fighting for Crumb.
Well, yeah, Jankos was dropping low, but he got the extra health back. There's the hook going down to him as well. Frederick with the last couple autos, but Nuke dug over the wall. Great ultimate will knock all the aggressors away and into the wall. Godfred is pinned there, and there's nothing that he can do. He will flash away, but the soldiers will follow in with a double kill for Nuke Duck.
So Giants really want to fight in this game here. First, Pepinero roams from mid lane when he didn't even need to, ends up dying. Then, after your mid laner is gone, the rest of your team invades into the enemy jungle, knowing that Nuke Duck still sits in the mid lane on Azir and can just walk through the river and be like, I'm here, guys. We now have a numbers advantage and a fed mid laner, basically. I say fed mid laner, he was 0-0, a level 6
now
fed laner. Now he's fed. Giants a little bit too aggressive. I like the fact they're here to play, but you need to calm down and say, we just lost our mid laner. Let's not go invade the enemy jungle at this time, because we will be a player less. And pretty big deal when level 6 Azir shows up.
Well, those are 2 plays now that have backfired for Giants, and you're right, they just need to calm down a little, play it out. And that's the interesting thing, because from both of these teams, we've typically seen the slower early games, especially from Roccat. Most games we see them just go to 20 minutes, even, maybe a little behind, maybe a little bit ahead. That's all we generally see. Giants as well sometimes fall behind, but they're being super aggressive trying to get these advances against Roccat. And they maybe have found a place where it's like, okay, the early game, not so good, could exploit it. Didn't quite work out right here.
Yeah, it basically is 2 teams who struggled in the early game. If we look at the entire split long here. Roccat, because they've been too passive, basically, and tried to more react to what the other team was doing, and which wasn't always in their favor. And Giants, just because, well, they tend to make some mistakes, as we mentioned in the lane swap. They tend to make some mistakes in the laning phase, where 2v2 maybe they've been losing the lanes, or Pepinero hasn't really showed up because he's on a scaling poke champion. He doesn't really have an impact for the first 20 minutes, and it became very difficult for Giants to play out the early games. So now they're trying to be aggressive, but it's at the wrong times, and Rocket punish, of course.
Yeah, now is not the time to use that, and Frederick almost gets caught out. They came in for the steal, but were not successful this time around. There's the fan vote, 80% over to Giants in this game. Very interesting. I mean, Giants have a big fan base, but right now, definitely going into Rockat's favor. In this game, at least. Still, a best of 5. There's a lot of room to maneuver for both of these teams.
And obviously, a lot of it's going to come down to adaptation between the games. How do you change your pick and ban phase? Was it a problem? In the first place, obviously, we have to highlight that Giants will be on blue side. Game 1, as we see here. Game 2, Game 3, and Game 5. Only Game 4 is Rocket on the blue side, and that was Rocket picking red side all 3 games, 1, 3, and 5. Let's see Steve here. This is going to happen quite a lot. Werlip is looking to fight, and Steve can't really do anything against him.
Well, it's troll time. Troll time is over. Fizz will go to his turret and go ahead and recall. Whirlip will go back to lane and carry on farming. But we did see Steve catch up a little bit on farm, or quite a lot on farm from the 6 he had earlier. But yeah, it really is about adaptation in these series, as you mentioned, Officio, because I feel like Giants is a team who can adapt in terms of their picks advance, which is contrary to what Rocket was saying a little bit earlier. But whether the players can adapt in-game, that's another question for me.
Yeah, well, it's tough to say, because for Giants, we have seen some pick and bans where we said, okay, that's a fine composition you're building right here. It's very meta-focused, you get some good counter picks coming in, but then the players can't really play the champions properly or the composition properly. And that's been very difficult for Lozak as a coach, being like, okay, do I go for meta compositions that I don't really know if my team can execute properly? Or do I maybe say, ignore the meta just a little bit and say, what are our comfort picks? Trundle is one of them. We have seen it a few times in LPL, but it has been a good pick, like Flandre has played it and it's been successful. But it's not a meta pick per se. It is still a good pick for Whirlip, and now Nuke getting jumped, and Steve.
Well, Steve has been called out. He's already used the playful trickster. There comes the pillar. Jankos coming in to assist, but he might just go down with Steve as well. Freddy piling on the autos. Whirlip comes in, flashes into the chomp, picks up that kill. Jankos, meanwhile, returns on Geldfred. Now he just needs to get away with the Time Winder.
And let's just talk about what happened down this bottom lane here, because we mentioned how Steve had caught up in farm a little bit. That's because the wave had been pushed up to him. It now starts pushing back, so Whirlip has put up a massive freeze once again. He's going to get an even bigger CS lead. And it was just a matter of time before Steve moved out and said, okay, can I do anything? Can I at least get an experience range? Giants were waiting for it, instantly reacted, get a kill for Whirlip, who's rushing to play the Rune King in this game here, so he's going to be so annoying to deal with in the one-on-one. And he's just going to stick to the side lane for as long as possible.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to play against that myself. Whirlip underneath this turret. Jankos looking for the gank, throws out the parallel convergence, not going to be helping too much here. Vander will put down the toy. He's going to take a couple more tower shots before Whirlip goes down. That one will also go over to Rales.
So nice little setup here from Rocket, but also Giants not respecting the dive that could happen. You see two guys follow the wave in. By then you always have to say, okay, our Trundle needs backup. He's gone Cutlass first, he's not tanky at all. Godfrey was on his way, and we also saw Frederick in the jungle, but they just reacted too late. Rocket gets the dive, they get the tower, they get another kill. So despite Steve being so far behind, the rest of Rocket is getting the kills. 2 kills for Nuke, 2 kills for Rales. Get a dragon as well. And they are hitting gold.
They are ahead in gold indeed, and Rocket will try and convert this into the first dragon of the game as well, as we have a pause. Guys, how do we kill this dragon? It's down to 50%. I don't know if it's Rocket who paused. Probably not.
They'll get to the dragon, don't worry. Should be a safe one for them. So what we have seen so far, lane swap coming in, very big freeze being set up from Giants, and because they were faster at killing the tower, they could swap Adri to the top lane a lot faster and shove in that wave, and then get a lot of tempo basically in the game. And Steve very quickly set up in that top lane, being like, okay, 2v1, I'm a level 3 Fizz at that time, I'm not really going to get a whole lot of farm, so he just left the lane. Walked down bottom lane, got nothing. Because then Giants were there, oh well, he got an assist on the Ludo.
Yeah.
Which I would say is almost nothing for him at that time. Where Whirlip got the waves, got to back away from the tower after he picked up 2 or 3 waves for himself. He got a big CS advantage. He's ahead in levels, level 7 to level 6. So this Trundle pick here, which is going to be so key in the split pushing department, is just going to be the way for Giants almost to win this game. Because the Fizz shouldn't be able to do a whole lot, at least for next 10, 15 minutes.
A while.
A while. It might even not full late game. I haven't seen this matchup full late game, what's going to happen. But Trundle is just so good here in these mid-game stages. He gets a lot of extra damage coming in, and whenever he's fighting on his W.
Frozen domain.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
You don't want to trade back with him. And it's tough to do in a one-on-one, because how do you kite him in and out of it?
Yeah, you run away. That's what you do.
And then it gets free damage on you.
Yeah, and it doesn't work out. But Giants do not just have the threat of Whirlip, they're also running the Tristana in this game. And we haven't spoken too much about it now, but Pepinero running the more of utility in the mid lane as well. Later this game goes on, he'll basically just be using all of his defensive and utility steroids on Adri, or maybe even Whirlip.
We would assume it's going to be on Adri, and it's going to be a setup where Whirlip goes in, and hopefully he can steal some tanky stats away from maybe Yankers. What we see from Fizz very often as well is like Trinity Force into some tanky items. So there should be targets for him to take stats away from. And then you have that Lulu shield on the Tristana, but potentially the Lulu ulti on the Trundle. And then Pepinero can kind of mix it up. But it's going to be very key how Archery can perform in these late game team fights, because we're looking at him with this kind of composition. You're looking at the AD carry. He's getting buffed up. He has peel from a Gragas, peel from a Thresh, peel from a Lulu. There's a lot of things to protect him. And on the side of Rocket, what is there really to dive onto him? Echo is not going to have the damage to kill him. He's building full tank. The Fizz is now falling behind, and it's very difficult to get a proper flank on against so much disengage right here. Also, when QSS comes in, drops the fish on the floor, you know, a lot of damage goes to waste there from Steve. So there should be enough to protect this Tristana. And then we might get this late game setup where it's all about Audrey just taking down towers and not even fighting. Because if they're running away from you and you're running away from them, take down the towers. That's what you got to go for.
Yeah, and then you got Whirlip as well. Could be difficult to play against. And also with the knowledge that Rocket usually go late game from a lot of the games that we've seen, likewise from Giants, that's only really going to benefit Giants, and more specifically this game because of all the mentions, or the reasons you just mentioned, rather. So the later this game goes, Giants maybe have a foot in the door. At the same time, they are down early here. It's a question of whether Rocket can convert that into an earlier lead, because we've seen the likes of Origin, you know, take a strong early game, convert that into a mid-game win, but are Rocket the team that can do that?
Yes and no. Rocket is a team that has been so inconsistent all split long that it's tough to really say what can Rocket do. It's something we talked about, obviously, before going live here. How the main weakness for Rocket all split long seems to have been like the shot calling or the decision making, like at the same time. Because in game, we could be like, that's a great composition, you played out the early game well, you're even, now you just need to control vision, like set up a Baron. And what happens? Rocket like randomly walks into the jungle and 2 people dies, and we're like, okay, what just went, what went wrong here? Yeah. And it's been so tough really to look at exactly what Rocket did poorly. But it comes down to that shot calling. It comes down to not following the game plan they had before the game. And I'm sure that's something they've been working on a lot coming into this. If they can fix it, we know they have the players to be a good team. We know they have the pick and ban phase to be a good team. They just need to fix that in-game decision making, because that's where it goes wrong and why they have these inconsistent games.
Well, I feel like in this game they got what they wanted, right? They had like triple flex pick, which confused even me. And it should have confused Giants and Champion Select. It meant, well, it doesn't really matter what Giants pick. We can always move around it. They got what they wanted. So now all they really need to focus on is that in-game and that inconsistency. And this early game, it's gone pretty well for them. So therefore, they should be able to transition into the mid-game better. It's a question of, do those decisions go well?
I mean, so far, as you said, it's gone well. Because what Rocket have done here is saying, oh, Giants, you want to randomly fight now? You want to randomly roam from mid lane? We're just going to punish you for it. We're not going to try and do any crazy things. Yeah. We're literally just going to be like, okay, you walk into our jungle with no mid laner. Well, let's just walk in and kill you. I mean, it's been very easy decisions so far for Rocket. But they've been playing out the lanes of the neck as well, because they've been able to punish Giants for it. And it's almost a shame the Giants had those bad decisions now, because they had a good setup.
Yeah.
Trundle had the big frozen wave. Steve had been forced off the tower. There's going to be a big CS advantage for Whirlip. And then Giants started fighting and lost 3-4 kills on it, and Rocket got the goal lead.
What I really want to see is more early games, and we're going to see those because this is a best of 5, so we are going to have more games. But I want to see more early games about what Rocket does and if they do anything proactive, because as you mentioned, you're right, it was all punishes, and Giants basically walked into the open arms of Rocket, and Rocket killed them. So we'll see how that one works out. But Adri, Frederick, Gottfried, the gang squad took down the Crab. We'll be heading into the top side of the map. Remember that Nuke Duck with those 2 kills and quite a lot of farm is currently sitting on a finished Nash's 2 for about 13 minutes. And you can see that converting into quite a lot of damage onto Pepinero.
Yeah, it's so scary with Azir now that you can rush at Nash's, how strong you're going to be for these mid-game fights as well. Around Dragons, Rocket already got the first one. They can wait for next one to spawn, because right now, pushing onto the Lulu lane can be difficult. But it's the only outer turret left, really, that is in the mid lane. So what you do instead is it becomes more the division war. You start going into the enemy jungle, you try and deny some wards from them and see if you can catch them out if they do walk through. Otherwise, you kind of just have to wait for Dragon to respawn. Yeah. If the other team doesn't make a mistake here, it can be difficult to really push it further for now, because we're still so early in the game.
Well, Gottfried is waiting patiently in this bush, but I think Ralez has already smelt this out. Has been sighted by the ward in from Giants, but They're hanging so far back. I don't think Godfred's going to get anything done down there. Frederick able to take away this pink while everyone is chilling in the bot lane. And probably go on his merry way, carry on farming the jungle. But let's stare down the bot lane. Interesting.
Well, the thing Rocket can do is if they take over this jungle and they keep shoving in this bottom lane, they know where Whirlip is sitting on the bottom side. If he gets any backup, suddenly the mid lane is open for you to rush there a little bit faster than Giants can move, because Giants have to move like behind the jungle, maybe even into their own base near the inhibitor, and that way up to the tier 1 tower. Rocket should be able to rush in there, either force Pippener away from it, threaten a dive, or just get some free damage with a Nash's Tooth Azir on that tower, and then slowly chip it down, while again you're just waiting for the dragon to spawn as kind of your next move.
Well, what will the next move be? Booth? Yankos. He's found Adri, connect the Time Winder, but this is pretty much what's going to happen for the rest of the game. Rocket don't have a whole lot they can connect with Adri unless he gets caught out, unless Vander somehow gets a flank into a flash taunt, because Adri just going to rocket jump away. He's got Buster Shot, he's got all the Sonars. It's basically going to be fine. And plus with the extra peel from the front line, from Giants and Peppy, it's going to be harder and harder for Rocket to deal with that. But if they continue to extend the lead, then may not even get to the point where that's a problem.
And that's also why Rocket is not looking to get these open 5-on-5 team fights where both teams are looking each other in the eyes. They can see everything that's going on when it comes to the engage. You gotta use that Fizz here, get in from a flank from the side so you can connect to that back line. You gotta use the Echo, kind of sneak in your W, trying to connect that stun, or at least force Giants to make a bad move because they have to avoid it. And that's how you can maybe split them up a little bit and get onto Adri. But we might just see the first few team fights be instead, how fast can we take down Whirlip? When he's running at us, Azir is going to be fantastic at zoning against the Trundle. Like, that's always been one of the problems for Core Trundle. Is yes, he can run fast at you, but if you put up a wall or something in front of him, he's never going to jump over it. So Azir can basically block Whirlip from doing any proper damage in a fight. Trying to get onto Frederick. Again, we see both teams just fighting over wards. That's the small objectives right here. Clear pink ward, clear green ward, and then this mid towers, you mentioned how Nuke will always get a little bit of damage every single time. You can see on your bottom side of the map how Godfred were trying to assist Whirlip. That meant Rocket knew, okay, we can so quickly just move through the jungle to this tower and just slowly chip it down. They've done it for the last few minutes, and now they get the reward. Last outer turret is gone. Dragon spawning 130. So they didn't have to make any plays. They could just wait for Nuke to do everything.
Frederick is no longer your jungle. That one belongs to Yankos. We will be pushing him away back to his turret, his inner turret here. Mr. Rallen still pushing in the bottom lane, continuing this one up. Vander maybe caught out here, but he's good to go. More wards come down.
I would really like to see also Giants say, let's remove Trundle from the bottom lane. We want to get him one-on-one against Fizz. Don't let Steve just sit and free farm up in this top lane. Also, of course, now use your global. Put him on the top side of the map in case you want to contest this dragon. But he's been sitting on the bottom side. It's been very easy for Rocket to keep control of that wave because Sivir obviously can fast push it in. So whenever you do that, Whirlip sits on the tier 1 or tier 2 tower. Rocket walks into the jungle, contests the vision because they know Trundle isn't really there. And then it's very easy for them to just move around the map. So I want to see him swap top, do all this Fizz here one-on-one. It's what you do best on the Trundle in the mid game. And right now, you're not really having an impact. You're just sitting, clearing a wave, then Sivir does the same, but you just do it a lot slower.
Yeah, and this time he may be caught out here by Vander. Oh, puts down the pillar. Means Vander will have to walk around it, also gets slowed down. Plus the frozen domain, very difficult to gank him this time around. But yeah, he's just kind of sitting down here, getting some farm, but not dueling that Fizz. And I feel like right now, especially the fact he's got a completed item versus Steve with his components, would definitely win that one-on-one. Dragon has spawned. Both teams are around this area.
And now you get the problem where your Trundle is sitting bottom lane with teleport. So Steve over in the top lane is now taking a massive wave into the tower, can get free damage on it because he's expecting Giants to be on the bottom side of the map. And then suddenly you don't really gain anything if you are Giants right here. If you want to fight for the dragon, it's going to be 5 versus 5 anyway because of Steve being able to TP down.
Wow.
So TP being used, so they're going to give up the dragon because they kept Whirlip on the bottom side of the map for such a long time.
Yeah, and we actually saw the recall come in from Steve as well, so he's actually just going to walk back top lane because that teleport was used by Whirlip, so he doesn't need to be down for the dragon. Maybe a miracle still will come over, but maybe not this time. Well, the Lantern comes over, but El Bandido not feeling it today. We'll get you next time.
Often not worth it to risk dying for it, because then suddenly you open up for Rocket to push another tower in. which is what Giants is doing their best to try and defend now. But this is the kind of plays we see too often, in my opinion, from Giants, where it becomes about, okay, how can we, or how good are we at predicting what's going to happen in the next 2 minutes? Okay, we know Dragon is spawning. Do we want to fight for it? Yes, no. If we do want to fight for it, obviously Warlip should have been on the top side. What happens now? Nukdog is just constantly shoving in mid lane. How do we stop him? Well, we can't do it right now because we're always getting pushed down in 2 lanes. So we can't move between the lanes. Warlip couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't duel the Fizz and win that one-on-one lane. So you had 0 winning lanes for like the last 5 minutes. And that means for Rocket, it's just free pushing every single lane.
Yeah, don't need to think about too much about what they're doing. Raller's just swapped back to the top lane to once again be against Warlip. Vander's going to be up there as well. And they'll just carry on pushing. There's advantages in the top lane is only going to Warlip, and the rest of the lanes in every single place. Rocket is getting those advantages. And Nukdog has completed the Rylai's as well, which is kind of to be expected. We see that a lot, those pairings of items.
Rocket doing it again. They keep moving Steve away from Warlip and just push the fast-pushing Sivir, who's still safe, in the lane against the Trundle. So you shove that in the wave, now Rylai's can then leave it, and then suddenly you can be 4 guys showing up in the mid lane. You can start getting vision around Baron, even have that as a threat, even though we're only 20 minutes in. It's just the fact that Giants at some point will have to go in and face check and look and see, like, is Rocket doing the Baron right here? We haven't seen him on the map for a while, and then suddenly you get caught out by Shin Taunt. Fizz gets the flank suddenly going. That's why we talk about how you can split up Giants as a team. So right now, them sitting so far back on the map is really making it impossible to use their split pushing threat.
Well, Steve is trying to go all in on Adri. There comes the rocket jump. He gets most of it off. That will be the teleport in from Vander, looking for the taunt. That will be the flash away as well. Steve does not have flash, of course. He is running Ignite, has more kill pressure, but in this case, he needs more movement speed to try and catch up to him. Turns around, maybe able to pick up a kill here for Adri. Another taunt comes across, and that will seal the deal. Warlip comes down, and Steve, does he have a way out? Subjugate comes across. Godfrey closing in from the side. Warlip actually gets him down. Nukdog as well throws out the Emperor's Divide. Will be zoning the rest of that team away. Frederick coming in from the left-hand side, looking for the barrel. Lands it onto Nukdog. Only knocks Vander away, doesn't secure the kill. And Nukdog will slide to victory and get to safety over the wall.
So Nukdog coming down in the end, making sure it's just a 1-for-1. But we saw Adri trying to push out just one wave for Giants. But then instantly Shen joins in. This is one of the beautiful things about Shen, how he can impact multiple lanes at once. So good play in the start from Rocket, but took them way too long to take Adri down. Just be happy you blew a few summoners, and then say, okay, that's fine. We push him off the tower, we get a free wave for Steve. Let's back away from me instead. Went all in, and we trade 1-for-1. Again, though, it is Trundle getting the kill, but we haven't seen Trundle do anything other than farm minions for the last 10 minutes.
Well, he's been very effective against those minions, but I'd like to see him against the Fizz. And we'll see him go bot lane. We're seeing Steve go bot lane as well. But just a couple minutes ago, we saw huge vision control go to Rocket when we saw Giants basically just sit in their jungle and not do a whole lot. Now, a lot of this is being cleared away. There were 4 pink walls down that river from Rocket, and all of them have been cleared out over the last 2 minutes.
Obviously, Rocket is just saying, we got 2 dragons for 0. We're looking to make a Shen play on the map, 2v1, see if we can get 1 kill. Otherwise, we're not going to risk anything. We're going to wait and wait and wait, which is still okay for Giants because they have this Tristana-Lulu combo. I just really worry about what can Warlip do in team fights against their Zeo wall, against the amount of crowd control coming in from maybe an Echo. Sivir being able to have the high amount of move speed to dance around can make it really tricky for Warlip to be more than just a big tank.
Well, Steve in this bottom lane, we're going to see that one-on-one.
Well, Steve's going to run. He's not going to...
Yeah, he will probably E away. He has ultimate as well. He's now level 11, so both of them have those tier 2 ultimates.
And we are at the point where Steve can do a lot more against the Trundle because, as you said, he has ulti. Trinity Force is completed, so his all-in potential is a lot stronger now on the Fizz. And so much is about, can you connect that ulti? Against a melee target with 0 jumps or anything, it is fairly easy. Dash forward, connect your ulti, and then you have a ton of damage. But you still got to respect the amount of sustain coming in from a Trundle, so you need Ignite ready, which Steve does not have at the moment. And that's also one of the reasons he said, you know what, guys? I'm not going to risk anything, which also seems to be the motto of the entire Rocket team.
Yeah, and they haven't really needed to do a whole lot because Giants have just been walking into them for the most part. Godfred does land the death sentence onto Jankos. It's not going to be a death sentence, maybe his own, in fact, as Jankos is still putting down the damage from his passive, the Time Winders, all the skills, but that's yet another hook landing as he tries to get away here. Vander did it buy enough time for him to take away this pick.
And we see the same again. Rocket are not opting into any crazy fights. Instead, they're using the Nash's Tooth Azir and the Sivir to just constantly shove down multiple waves, and then you just group. Now that there's no threat from what Whirlip is doing, because he's so far away from your tower on the bottom side, you can just group mid lane. Lulu is the main wave clear, and then you always get at least a little bit of damage on the tower, and you just slowly chip it away more and more, and it's up to Giants then to say, okay, our outer turrets are going down, we're not doing anything, we now need to force an engage, like this one, onto Nukeduck. But they don't really have any proper ways of doing it, because it's going to be the Trundle walking forward, putting up the pillar, and then Nukeduck putting up his ulti and saying, nope, you're not going to walk in here. And then Giant's like, oh, okay, sorry, and then back away.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it's going to work out. Rala is going back into the bottom lane, clearing out yet another wave. Whirlip heading back, gearing up for this next dragon, which has just spawned. And so far, Giants, they weren't able to contest the first. They didn't contest the last one, as Whirlip was in bot lane. Steve was pressuring. This time around, they could do something. Teleport is up from Whirlip.
Getting very late to the top lane though, so Steve gets another free push and is there faster. So if both top laners TP away now, at least Trundle loses a lot of waves. But once again, Giants, they have zero control on the map. They don't have Whirlip in the right lane, so they don't feel like they're setting up any pressure. Therefore, they give up another dragon. 3 now for Rocket. Your mid tower is slowly getting chipped away. So Rocket is just going to go back to do exactly the same. But now we're also getting to the time where you can put pressure on the Baron. Yep. There's another objective the Giants have to worry about. And they can't keep giving up everything.
Rocket is achieving a lot by not doing a lot. Because they've basically just been around Dragon. It's like, you're going to contest? No? Okay, we'll take this. It's just like, you're going to contest this vision? No? Okay, we'll take this.
That's why I like champions who can just fast push waves very quickly, because it suddenly means you don't have to fight. It means that if you're always a step ahead of the other team because you can instant clear a wave, it's a lot easier for you to then group mid and just time one of those waves to hitting a tower, get two or three hits, back away. Over and over and over. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, but at the same time, it's very, very effective if the other team doesn't have any ways of engaging. Yeah. And that is just, like, Giants need a flash body slam in from the Gragas. That's the main engage they're going to have. But we haven't seen Frederick try and pull off any moves so far in this game. Because also Giants always is very late being grouped, because they have to clear out these side waves, and then they're like walking mid, being like, okay, now we're ready. Rocket already walked away.
Yeah, Rocket always one step ahead, or even multiple steps in this case. Steve is back into that bottom lane, still pushing away. And because of how this game has gone, everyone's got a lot of farm. Nukeduck is 290 right now at 27 minutes. Everyone is just farming up a Storm on Rocket, just getting more and more items. Frederick does get hit by the Time Winder, but just backs away. Doesn't even get hit by the Time Winder. Vander, once again, getting hooked by Godfred, but doesn't pull the trigger, doesn't have the members around the area to be confident for the engage, especially with Nukeduck in the middle lane, able to very quickly get around the area. Basically, everyone's summoners is up as well, because there's not been a lot of interactions between the two teams.
And that's really always the annoying thing. If you are Giants, you're like looking for that flash engage on your Gragas. You realize, oh, Sivir, Spell Shield, and Flash. There's Cleanse and Flash on the Azir, because again, you haven't blown any summoners. So once you get that big engage, Rocket should have everything ready to defend themselves. So you might just get that big engage, Rocket flashes out, and then we're like, everyone is disengaged. We reset the whole map again, and Rocket goes back for the next 5 minutes or whatever to do exactly the same over and over. And Giants have to find a new way then to engage, which in this case, when you do have the Trundle, often comes in from you, a bit like we talked about with the Fizz. You get the map control, then you can start flanking around them, but you simply can't. Usually pushed so far back in every single lane, almost all game long.
Yeah, right now those flanks are not going to happen. Pretty much all the warding is going down within the Giants jungle. If it's going to happen, then he's going to have to just be like Solid Snake, get all the way around them past all of those wards, and then get behind Rocket, but yeah, not right now for sure. What they do have is a lot of disengagement. What they do have is a lot of damage onto this turret. Vander does get hooked in here. Pepinero is stunned up, and there's the Fizz in the back, but he's so far away. Godfred is dropping low, and Rocket are just running all over the Giants. Adri is going to go down. He doesn't have enough to get out of there, just not enough heal, and Steve will look for more onto Pepinero. He'll flash away as well, but not before Whirlip is thrown to the wolves, and that's a 4-for-0, all in favor of Rocket.
And I feel like we just talked about this, Pulse. Once Giants realize now we have to try and engage, Rocket will have everything ready because nothing was used. And also at this time here, Giants are engaging onto a tower. Meanwhile, they have zero clue where Steve can teleport to because they don't know where the wards are on the map. Rocket had full control, and we get the flank from the Fizz, we get a fight on the tower. Nuke Dog and Rallis didn't even have to use anything because the engage honestly never really happened. From Giants, it was more them grouping and then Rocket saying, okay, you're completely overextended. Look here at Adri. Steve comes in, he gets straight to the back line, no protection at all. Easy kill for him, easy fight one. And Nuke Dog on this Azir, in these fights, are just doing way too much damage. And they're gonna have to deal with it every single game unless they ban the wave, because we haven't seen Pepinero ever use it. And it's such a good pick for Nuke Dog.
I mean, look at him. He didn't burn a single summoner. He wasn't touched once in that fight. I mean,
under the tower, and it was Giants pushing up, and Rocket saying, okay, let's engage. Echo jumps in first. Steve gets the teleport. Just perfect setup from Rocket, and nothing Giants could do at that time.
Yeah, Giants just need to calm down a little. But at the point in the game
Not anymore.
Where they were coming down, then they just let everything get away. So they just need to choose the right fights. They need to choose the battles.
But that really has been the problem for Giants. The moment of the game where they could just sit back and say, hey, we have a good lane swap right now, we're getting tons of farm, take it easy, boys. They went aggressive and died. That meant they had to play a lot more passive in the mid game, where they were supposed to take over a little bit with this Trundle pick. And Rocket has just been able to swap around him. Yanka's looking for more as well.
Yeah, moving on to Frederick here, uses the cask defensively, and Vander will be the one to pick up the kill with the key strike from the passive. Another kill going over to Rocket, looking for this bot lane push. This is just getting out of hand.
Baron buff, Azir Sivir. So much damage on towers, and Pepinero fighting that Azir passive in the mid lane. Does get it down, but it's tough for him now to wave there with Baron buff, and look at the damage they can put onto the tower. Very, very quickly, playing it very safe as well, because Steve is still split pushing without a teleport.
What are you going to do? It's 4 versus 5. You committed 4 people into the bottom lane. Steve's going to take everything you own in the top sides of the map. Only now is Whirlup reacting. That tower's basically gone. The inhibitor turret in the top lane is gone. And Jankos in the bottom lane tanking up this tower. Don't have any minions anymore, apart from that one hero minion. Not going to quite get it. But Andrew will clear away the rest of the minion wave. But look how low that turret is. It may even get taken down here. Oh, a couple more. One more auto from that minion. We're doing fine. What were we looking at? How low is it?
19 HP. I mean, someone just got to flash in there and take it, man. Be a man, Rocket.
Vanza.
Steve, though, Steve got a tower on the top side. So they got the base open. Got 4 dragons to 0. Next one in 6 minutes. I mean, it's really just been Rocket in full control from minute, what, 9 or 10?
Yeah, so when it got basically as soon as Giants went in for that invade.
Yeah, when they got those early kills, and with the comp they're running right here, Rocket very, very strong all around. A lot of things they can do. Good wave clear, good fast push potential, decent split push with the Fizz, obviously. There's a lot of good things. And I really like Echo Jungle. It's been such an underrated pick in Europe, because you pack so much CC. It's insane. Your W, how you can lock down multiple targets, and also it's very tough to get that first kill on an Echo when he's in the front line, because you can just ult it back. So if you're Tristana looking for that first kill to jump onto the next one, Echo is kind of denying that by always jumping back opposite to his ulti. It's not about the damage he can deal.
So the other thing about this one is that Giants, I don't necessarily dislike the composition. I feel like I say that a lot when I watch Giants, but I don't think it's tailored to the team. Like, I don't see the Lulu here with Adri and being like, okay, Adri, you're going to go late game and you're going to carry. I like Whirlup being on a split pusher, being on Trundle, but yes, it's something a little bit different, but why not stick to what's gotten you games?
I agree on the fact it doesn't fit Giants as a team for what we have seen, but Giants playing the style that we thought was the Giants style resulted in them still getting 3-0 by H2K and coming into playoff as the weakest of the 6 teams. So they had to try and adapt to something. At the same time, they're running these very risky compositions that once they start falling behind, there's very little they can do. And it's because they tend to run with these split-pushing champions with no engage in the top lane. So they rely so much on one guy being basically the only engage. And that's what Rocket can very easily predict here. Okay, it's going to be the flash body slam from a Gragas. Like, that's the way Giants is going to start their fight. We have flashes ready, we have flames, we have spell shield on a Sivir. So it's not really easy for Frederick to get onto a target. And then Giants just sit back way too defensively. And Rocket slowly but surely have taken over the game.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be fast, it doesn't need to be flashy. As long as you pick up the win, a win's a win. Nuke, Duck and Vander pushing in the middle lane. Again, just chunking this a little by little. And Nukeduck putting some more poke onto Frederick. Bot lane's being pressured, top lane's being pressured, and over time that base is going to get eroded, but not if Adri finds a kill onto Ralez first. The Shen ultimate comes in, he will be there to defend him and stand united. Looking for the taunt coming down, does not connect onto Giants. And that's the ultimate down here. So the siege has been momentarily delayed, but no doubt Rocket will be back to that not too shortly.
Yeah, still, Giants managed to push them away from the tower. No reason to take the chance. If you are Rocket, you have potentially 5 dragons, another Baron coming. And obviously the fact you have that base open. It's good to see what Adri can do, though. They were getting further and further into the game. But didn't get a kill, so not really anything Giants can get from it.
Yeah.
Like, you need that big team fight now that gives Giants a Baron as well, for them really to start coming back into the game. But Rocket, it's going to be their mistake if that's going to happen. Otherwise, they should be able to close the game. Nice
the
taunt.
flash taunt into Adri, or the taunt flash rather. There's the crits coming down. Jankos looking to follow up. The ultimate comes in onto Vanna, but only pushes him towards his own team. Godfred will pay the price for that one. Adri comes into the fight, and Adri is out of the fight. Steve now pushing down the middle lane, looking for this tower. It's already so low from Nukeduck from before. Now, here comes the inhibitor as well, probably looking for the top one, just play it safe. Why not just take all of the inhibitors? There's nothing stopping Rocket from doing that right now. Are we taking the second one here? Oh, who's that? Whirliv is up there by himself, and he will be taken out. Nukeduck flashing away. No way you can catch the bird on this one. Frederick has been stunned up by the parallel convergence. A little too tanky for Rocket's taste right now. Vanda's on out of there. Dragon's up in 2 minutes. Baron's up in 20 seconds. They can do whatever they want on Summoner's Rift.
You can hardly make a bad call right now if you are Rocket. The only thing maybe you have to worry about is Il Bandito walking here on the Gragas, who does like to steal Barons for Giants and use that as a comeback. But even if they do lose a Baron, I don't think they care. You just go take the Dragon instead, and you go close out the game.
He steals that as well.
Well, if he steals everything, maybe. We can just kill him as well, but...
That works. He's going to try and make his escape here, but he's so slow. Maybe get the body slam over the wall, but Jankos is already tearing him up. Nukeduck did get hooked, though. He's dropping low, but he backs all the way into that corner, is still alive, still had the cleanse, still managed to get out. 9 lives on that bird. 2-0, plus the Baron.
I didn't know birds had 9 lives.
Yeah, sure. It applies to most animals, I'm sure. Going back to base.
Sure. I mean, if you say so, Paul, I believe.
Have faith. Captain there in the top lane. Versus the mini waves is going to take a while to clear. But now Dragon is up in 40 seconds. Rocket, they don't even need to push down into that base. They can just wait. They can secure the area, place down some wards, pick up the Dragon.
So let's look at the pick and ban phase. We go all the way back. Seeing as, again, we're expecting Giants or Rocket Surges to take that Dragon and then go down to the bottom lane. Don't even need the Dragon, honestly. Pick and ban phase, Giants banned away the Maokai from Steve. It has been his most picked champion, yet it's not always we feel like Steve have much of an impact on it. Yeah. Obviously, this game was not about Steve on Fizz, because he was basically shut down from the lane swap. It was more Giants themselves, as we've mentioned a few times, being too over-aggressive. But we saw Rocket use these flex picks really well in the pick and ban phase. Echo coming in there, Azir, obviously not a flex pick, but just as an early rotation, because it's such a safe pick. And then the Shen as well, which has been a big pick here. Vanna's had a good performance, always showing up whenever there was a fight. The few times Giants have looked for fights, Vanna was there. So Rocket in this pick and ban phase, because they've had so many different things they can use, and because they have this Azir pick for Nukeduck, Giants might have to change up the bans completely. I don't think banning Maokai over Azir is going to be a smart thing for the next game.
They had a first pick as well, and they banned the Elise. Would maybe like to see that prioritized, even if Rocket don't ban it coming in here. But that's the first Nexus turret going down. Whirliv is trying to make his escape, but there's not a whole lot you can do against a Baron and 5 Dragon team. And you can see that damage coming in. 1 goes down, 2 goes down. Make that the triple for Ralez. And that'll be the next Nexus turret going down, as well as the Nexus itself. They're just styling at this point, as Pepinero and Godfred just try and poke a little. That'll be the first Nexus going down of this series. 1-0 to Rocket.
Slow and steady wins the race for Rocket. Outside of those few fights in the early game, Giants really didn't bring anything to this game here. Random composition we have seen somewhat before, at least when it comes with the split pushing part for Whirlip. Never got to set him up for split pushing though. He was always in the wrong lane at the wrong time, and then the rest of Giants was built around Pepinero supporting Adri. Something we haven't seen before. That was the big change. Whirlip on a split push on perfectly normal. Godfred on Thresh, you know, normal. It was the Adri Pepinero thing, which didn't do anything after they fell behind. And then the fact that Whirlip, and this is surprising to me because normally he is very good at finding the one-on-ones. He's very good at being in the right lane. But here, it was just completely off.
Yeah.
Basically all game long.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the biggest thing was Pepinero being on something that wasn't, you know, a pure poke champion, being on that supporty mid laner. Would maybe like to see him go back to a carry mid laner, even go back to the poke. Yes, it didn't work out up against H2K, but maybe if they've improved that style a little bit. I mean, this definitely didn't work. But that was also based off those early decisions, which went awry.
And also what we got to look at in the pick and ban phase, the Elise ban was so they could first pick the Lulu as a takeaway from Nuke Dog or Steve potentially in the top lane. And then Lulu is fantastic in the current meta. I like it. I like the shift towards 80 carries. But again, the problem is when your comp is not, or when your team is not normally playing around that style, it doesn't always work.
Well, that's what we think. But we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to take a look at what they think about Rocket's Game 1 win.
Thank you, Pulse. And we actually kind of agree. We had that graphic at the top of the show with the possible flex pick that you have to have in your back pocket. We saw all three of them, the Fizz, the Shen, and the Lulu. But as the Fisho touched on there already, Trevor, the Lulu in the lineup of Giants, it might work in the composition, but not necessarily for the player.
No, it really doesn't. That's actually only the second time that Giants have run Lulu all split long. The only other time they ran Lulu was when Pepinero and Adri lane swapped against Fnatic. Adri played middle lane, and he picked Lulu into Fnatic, and that also went terribly. I think it's not a Pepinero champion. Pepe needs to be in a carry. He needs to be on something that is aggressive and get in the face. But I do like what Rocket did with the likes of the Shen. That was the first time we've seen Vanda on it all split long. The Echo, as well as the Fizz. Only the second time that they've run that in the jungle and the top. So they added those flex picks that we felt were very important on the patch, and you guys touched on at the top of the show.
Yeah, I actually feel like the Shen, as you said, first time from Vanda, very solid. The Fizz started out a little bit shaky for Steve up against the Trundle, but there was obviously a decision made by the team. Never put Fizz up against Trundle, avoid it at all costs, and just rotate around the map, push through turrets. I thought it worked very well. I kind of want to highlight the Lulu once again. Deficio talked about it so much. Lulu is a champion that was 100% pick ban in the LCK finals, the LPL finals, the EU LCS finals, the NA-LCS finals. It's a champion that you have to be able to play around and play with around your AD carry. Giants can't do it.
And very quickly, I also remember Rocket banned it every single time against the Unicorns of Love. Other way around, Unicorns of Love banned it every single time against Rocket in their quarterfinal. So first picking it, also denied it from Rocket today.
I just want to, aside from picks and bans, step back to the early game. And I actually think Giants could have gotten ahead. Giants as a team seem to me that they're doing some things right, and then they completely drop the ball and just straight up lose the game. In the early lane swap, they had the momentum by taking the tower first with Tristana. Then they switched the lanes around, traditional lane swap style. They actually forced Rocket to actually 4-man the first tower too. Again, Rocket a bit behind in experience. Suddenly, Whirlip was ahead, and we saw that play out later in the game. But it went wrong when they tried to defend their dive on the second tower on the bottom lane. Pepinero walked in, got caught, didn't flash in time. He gave a first blood. Even then, it would have still been fine for Giants. If it weren't for them trying to even up a disadvantage that wasn't even there. They invaded the jungle and they got caught at Grump. And we actually have a replay that we can bring that up already.
Little help.
Kind of spoiled it already, but yeah.
And we can take it now too.
This is the second replay. This is the fight actually that happened way later in the game. So let's ignore the Grump fight right now. And this is actually the deciding team fight. After that whole Grump debacle went down, basically nothing happened. And then we got to this point in the game where suddenly Rocket decided, hey guys, let's fight, let's kill them all, let's get 4 kills and get Baron. But I feel that the game was already decided by this point, and it'll boil down to the early games later on in the stages in multiple best of 5s. Multiple games in his best of 5 for Giants to try and win the game.
Yeah, all of the control was with Rocket, and I also felt that I quite liked the teleport that was coming out of Steve. It was behind Giants for Rocket. They managed to punish it, and the entire time that fight was going on, Whirlip was running up the lane. I remember looking, seeing his teleport was available. I just think Giants didn't expect the fight to happen so rapidly. And that was why Whirlip's like, I'll run up, chill guys, I'll be there soon. The fight breaks out, he's like, well, I'm still kind of running. It's going to be the same time if I run or I TP and end up being a waste. So had Whirlip been there sooner, maybe it could have gone different, but coulda, woulda, shoulda.
It's quite interesting as well, because we always talk about Rocket. They have to do more in the early game, make more happen. Do you think this is a testament to a new Rocket that is doing things in the early game, or was it the Giants not making the right decision?
I don't think it's a new Rocket yet. personally. They made a couple of plays, the dive on bottom lane, it was orchestrated, but I don't think it's like this drastic change from Rocket yet.
I don't think it's drastic, but I do think it is a step in the right direction. By 34 minutes into the game, they'd actually cracked open Giants' base, despite the pace being slower. They had every dragon, they had 2 barons, they had aspect, like everything Rocket had to do right to win, they did.
The problem I have with that sequence of events is that Giants just let it happen. And as a team, every team in the LCS can get those objectives, can get those dragons, you know, can get control of the map if they have a significant lead, if the opponent is not pushing back at all. Yamato Cannon came out and said, Rocket, we're playing the right style. But the problem is they're playing the right style in slow motion. It's going too slow, adaptation isn't there, and obviously it shows into a perfect 5 dragons game, into Baron, into close out the game beautifully. You don't really see the mistakes because nobody's trying to punish you. Giants, they were constantly freezing lanes, sitting back, waiting for something to happen. Rocket said, well, we're not going to make anything happen. And then you get these, kind of boring games where it goes kind of long and not much happens. But I want to see Rocket aggressively take their lead even further and snowball it more, because if you do this against Origin, who they're potentially facing in the next round, you'll just get punished.
And I think the Lulu mid with the split push Trundle and the relying on the Lulu plus Triss combo is part of the reason Giants were less able to force something. So different picks and bans in game 2 that could make it work.
Yeah, because their carry, who they're looking to deal all this damage to start plays off, is on a Lulu, trying to put it on Adri. Doesn't work out for Giants. Need to change that up.
That didn't work out. Maybe some different strategies for Giants. We talked about it. We also asked you guys at home which strategies you thought would prevail in the regional qualifier. And at DodoVT writes, triple threat comps and TP Diana mid are really strong nowadays. Those might dominate the Rift for this week's games. We do know that Diana, who has been surging, is something that Pepinero has in his back pocket.
I would love to see Giants play this heavy skirmish type of composition where you just say, okay, it'll almost devolve into solo queue, constant fight and constant aggression. Roam, put Pepinero on a playmaker, a champion that can carry his own weight. Combine it, say, imagine if you have Trundle in the top lane being annoying like Whirl was last game. Then you have Diana in the mid lane, and then you have like a skirmish AD carry, good early spike. Just anything that can hold his own merit that allows Godfrey to roam. Suddenly, Giants are putting pressure in all lanes at once. It might not be the typical meta, it might not be the best composition, but as a whole, I think this is the best shot Giants have. I would like to see them pursue something like that more.
And imagine if you had the versatility of a Gangplank in there as well. Whew, so much skirmish.
Yeah, pick Norband in this game. Very interesting. Well, in just a few minutes, the Giants will return to the Rift as they try to tie up this series against Rocket. We'll be back with Game 2 right after this.
Focus now, and if we will win, we will be on this wall in the future.
Yeah, do not think of winning, think of the game.
Okay, if we win the game,
the process, the beauty lies in the process.
There's the hook going down to him as well. Frederick with the last couple autos, but Nuke Dog over the wall. Great ultimate will knock all the aggressors away.
I'm on Jagas and Crash.
Yeah. Trundle will be on the side. I ulti
Trundle?
Yeah. Go Trundle.
You got something. Lulu flash. Lulu flash.
Go Nash.
Nice.
But you can see that damage coming in. 1 goes down, 2 goes down. Make that the triple. 1-0 to Rocket.